Order the work study session for the school board. This is going over our handbook review and revision. Mike, if you want to go and get us rolling on this.
Yeah, and just for those of you in attendance, this is really one of those situations where you get to use the open door law. You're here while the board has a discussion. So it's kind of like watching television. You get to see the sausage being made. But it's an opportunity similar to an executive session where we're talking about things that are private, confidential, that really shouldn't be talked about outside. Now these are public things that everybody gets to see how we do. We've been looking into our handbooks, and first of all, what we found is there's wide variation among the handbooks. The support staff handbook, and maybe I should start by saying all the handbooks should have pretty much the same information. All the handbooks should pretty much have the same information inside of them. So
these are current.
No, hold on, wait.
These are our current ones?
No, okay, so rewind. We have approved this. This has been something that comes up annually that we have done. This, however, and this one, even though it says revised July 2024, we have never once put this into effect.
Good.
Okay? Because it's not like we were going through and trying to tweak it.
I don't want to be like an attorney, but I'll show just so our people can see them. So these should all contain about the same information because it's your employee rights. This one is what one should look like. This is the support staff handbook, which also has every support staff job description and daily calendar in it. So the handbook stops right here. This is the additional materials for each individual job. This is the administrator handbook, of which we have 5 in the corporation that this applies to. So this is the handbook for 5 people, and it's got way too much in it. Then is that the teacher one?
No, I handed it to you. These are my copies that I've gone through and done my homework on.
Oh, no. And here's the certified employee one. It's bigger than the one. It should be, again, about this big, and then some information in the back. Especially when it comes to the teachers, because the teachers have a collectively bargained contract, which is their Bible, if you will, on what is appropriate and inappropriate. So what we've been trying to do is combine everything into one with the information that they need. And so what I've provided to the board, I wouldn't say is something that I'm recommending for adoption at this time. It's just here are the topics that the handbook should cover. And that I feel like we can have pretty uniform procedures, protocols, information. And a lot of times it's just providing you information. So here's the information every employee should know. Then what's going to be the largest part of this handbook are the addenda. And it's the stuff that applies to the high school principal. So just similar to how I showed with the support staff handbook, here's the job, here's the days it is, here's when it's supposed to report to work, here's the benefits that it receives, that type of thing. And then really want to mirror this off of what a lot of other districts do, but again, kind of best practice. Because the other thing, let's be real. Do we really think somebody's reading a 100 and some page handbook?
No, because it took me 2 hours to get through 35 pages.
Yeah, so, together.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours.
The other thing that I do want to recommend before we officially adopt a handbook, through no fault of this board that's sitting in front of us right now, or sitting in front of me right now, we're behind on our policies. Mm-hmm. Because you haven't had policies brought to you to update. So it would be my recommendation that this fall semester, we make sure our policies are up to date, because policies inform the handbook procedures.
Yep.
Making sure that those are up to date, and then around November, December, when we get through all the policies, we also have a handbook that matches
what's been implemented policy-wise.
Yes.
Yep.
So I guess, what I would ask you to do is browse through the very short document that I put in front of you and identify things that you think there needs to be more information on, or things that potentially are missing that you think should be in a handbook. But do remember, we have board policies for the overarching things, and those do take precedent. And the handbook is really something that's more practical for an employee when they're looking for information.
Okay, so I guess to get to the nut and meat and potatoes for me, handbook is just, what you're telling me is a handbook is just for the employee to have a brief summation of whatever their basic responsibilities are for whatever, has 8A deductions, sick leave, technologies, privacy laws, drug workforce, standard stuff that most corporations do. What you're telling me is that the policies is kind of like the ordinances are for the county. It's the law or the rules that these can point to and say,
Yes.
Like our prime example of the argument about the, in the handbook for the sports athletic banquets. Is that something you would put in the handbook, or is that something we would put in the policy?
That
If the
would
board
be something
decided
you
to-
would put in the policy.
that said, hey, you're going to have your banquets in the school corporation. It's going to be spring, fall, and winter, and the athletic director and brick. You put that in the policy.
Yes.
Not in the handbook.
Yeah, no, that there are opportunities. I'm glad you brought up one thing that is kind of an accepted rule. There are things that you take from policy and put into handbook.
Okay.
But many times the policy is something that's overarching, or let's just say professional dress is one of your policies. It may go into a little bit more detail in the procedures, and then it may also break out based upon your role. We understand a mechanic's going to dress differently than we expect a classroom teacher to.
So does these 3 handbooks that we're consolidating, does that include the student handbook?
No.
No, the student handbook is separate.
Separate.
Yeah,
Should be separate.
These are employee handbooks. But what I would recommend is we work on the policies,
And
we get them up to date, and we make sure we don't have any contradictions in our handbook and the procedures, if you will. The handbook's more procedures. What do I need to know? Then, where I really think the meat of it's going to be is the addendum that apply to individual roles. So, okay, here's everything that's general for all of us. Now I'm a cafeteria worker. Here's what's different for me. Or I'm the athletic director. Here's what's different for me.
Okay.
So that'll be essentially all their job descriptions that you're saying that are in there, or
Yeah,
their
well,
duties?
they kind of job descriptions and
Okay,
what their calendar looks like, the vacation they get, the days they get off.
okay.
Do you have any standardized forms that you have from your other school organizations that you work with? Because it sounds like we can standardize this in the concept of job description 1,
Yeah.
and then 220 hour or day teacher does
Yeah.
this. So then maybe we can just, like you're saying in our addendums, have one for AD, one for principal, and you have a form, and it says,
Yeah,
dang.
and we have a pretty good template. The
Okay, good.
support staff one, that is what it's like, because if you think about it, our support staff is where we have the most uniqueness among the jobs, from para to mechanic to bus driver. But we have that, what their calendar is, what benefits they get, what days they get off.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing that I think would probably be helpful too is we pick some employees and we have them look at the handbook too and say, what questions do you have?
Okay.
Does this answer your questions? Do you feel like, you know what to do?
Like when I hand you this, you understand fully what
Yeah.
everything encompasses instead of just looking at it and like.
Yeah.
And
I
so
think
that it's
we looked at it.
universal moving forward for
Yeah.
everyone, no matter who's sitting in what position. It's not personal or anything. It's just everybody knows
This is the
this
role.
is what it is, so that there are not
Yeah.
a lot of questions, because that's happened in the past.
The other thing that we can work to do, something Michael alluded to earlier, is we link it back to a policy. Because if you look at
reference policy.
if you look at 5.06, it's conflict of interest and gifts. And here it says employees may not accept gifts or favors that could influence decision making. School staff should avoid business or financial relationships that conflict with their role. if that goes back to a policy, you're gonna see a lot more detail
It does.
in it.
Mhm.
And then you'll know more about where that falls. But then the other thing that it should say, this one says, contact HR, your administrator. There should be somebody who it all links back to where an employee knows where to go.
Well, should we put a chain of command graph on here?
Yeah, that's, again, so that's the kind of thing, that's a great point, Sam. That's the kind of thing for the addendum.
Okay.
Because I do think it's important for employees to know who to go to when they have a complaint about their boss.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it would be, and I like the idea of the chain of command, but you're gonna have to, it's gonna take a little work, because teacher X in building X, their chain of command is this. Employee Y in building over here, it's a different chain of command.
Yeah.
Meaning,
Well, you could generalize it.
you can
Like
generalize
teachers-
certain.
Teachers report to principal.
That's what I'm saying, you won't have one, you're gonna
Right.
have 4 or 5
Yeah.
chain of commands, right?
Yeah, they'll be different, it's like org charts, they'll be different.
Correct.
Yeah.
Org
Won't be
charts
by
based
name,
upon-
but it'll be by position.
Yeah, based on role.
The other thing I don't see in here is disciplinary. If anybody breaks these rules, what are our procedural, like, strike 1, you get this, strike 2, you get that, strike 3, you get this, being held accountable, for not following the handbook. Employees like to know what their disciplinary, by the handbook, if I do this, then I get suspended.
Yeah.
I get without pay, I get whatever. I'd like to personally see that in there.
Sure.
Yeah, because for example, there is a social media policy about employees
Yeah.
putting anything online that is negatory against the school system. So that would want to
That
be
gets broke all the
referenced.
time.
That would want to be referenced in there.
We need to figure out how to address those things. If, you gotta have, if you're gonna have policies and procedures, you gotta enforce them. The other thing on the military, jury duty and other leave, I think any government, thing should be classified in that other leave, being connected to election or politics and stuff. Trying to find good people to be appointed to boards in the
Yeah.
communities is very difficult. And I know over the years, we've talked about trying to get people to sit on, whether it's a regional water and sewer district or other boards within our community, and getting people that are teachers or employees that are schools, it's hard. But if you can put that variance in there that it's, subject to the superintendent and the board, but approved.
And
leave.
that should be something, not to interrupt, that should be something that the board should put in policy. When we look at those policies for leave, put that added, and then we can put it in.
Right, so you're talking about the policy on this one, or 407 for the handbook. We want to, you're saying, be more
The
specific.
policy it links back
In the
to.
policy saying,
Yep.
Military leave, active duty call up.
You get so many days a year. If you go
Yeah,
2
over
weeks
that, then
and
you
all
have,
that
then you
stuff.
don't
Perfect.
get paid if you
Yeah,
go for so many
or
days.
appointments to the sewer board,
Mhm.
Perfect.
Is that something that can be added in here under each section then? So like for this military and jury duty, we can put C board policy
Yeah.
with the number
Yes,
so
that-
they know directly where to go.
Yeah,
Another
once,
lead,
once
yeah.
we
And
get
they
board,
don't have to thumb through because that's
Yeah,
intimidating.
that's what we want to do is reference that and have those in there. I
Yeah.
think that's
Perfect.
my vision. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they can find stuff easier.
Well, it gives
Yes.
you more detail if you put it in the policy, and this is just a quick reference sheet for the employees. And every employee will sign off on these ones.
yeah,
This
so
is
the
those great
employee will
big
sign
ones.
off on this. Something I also found, and Terry, you can help me out if we have it. I couldn't find the UAP,
They can go here and
accessible
be like,
use
okay,
policy,
that board
or
policy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're
AUP.
not-
Do we have one of those that people sign off
This is
on?
very, and then
I
they'll
think
get
they're in
more
the
detail.
office. I mean,
Somewhere between
that's where they
those
are.
and
Okay.
We
Just
never
ask
had
for
anything
concerns,
digital.
I'm like, they only
So
Yeah.
handed someone a 100-page.
It was either in, the student handbooks had it, and, but yes.
They're somewhere in the middle, like this is for administrator, this is
Yeah.
certified, non-certified, and the job description is when, so can we go, this is the Bible, so to speak, moving forward, so everybody knows. It's not, I do this.
But I definitely think
Everybody knows, exactly.
I know that these are generalization. Obviously, you took
Yeah,
many pages and consolidated it into 5, which is great. But
Are there any?
we need to make sure we tie that back into the policies, because you got to have,
Yeah,
they have to have understanding, we have to have understanding.
mhm.
yeah. it's
Superintendent
gotta-
has to have understanding.
So the addendums, like section 6, he has addendums and forms, emergency contact form updated annually, requests for leave of absence, FMLA leave or extended time, address name change form, notify HR within 5 days, acknowledgement of handbook receipt, signed upon hire and annual review, technology acceptable use form signed annually, which I would assume ties back to the social, it's gonna tie back to that social media
Yeah.
policy also. Salary, benefits, and calendar by role certified administrative support staff, so that's why you're saying, like, everybody's out, how many
Yeah.
days, what it looks like, so everybody knows, job descriptions, support staff evaluation form, and internal HR documentation, and safety acknowledgement forms for high risk or facility staff.
For me, Mike, this falls into that calendar you were talking about, trying to get done before you leave, which got till December. Is like in the handbook, it should say if you're going to sign your, here's your time frame for insurance to sign up,
Yes.
right? Like you got from whatever the insurance is from
Yeah. Open
December
enrollment.
to January of your enrollment time. You need to have that in there so that the employee understands that. So then they're looking at it. You also need to probably have in here anything that deals with time off, where they're going to go, how that gets approved or
Yeah.
denied, and all that type of stuff. Things on work. I mean, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. Does the policy covers?
Yeah.
It does
it's
cover
all-
that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's sick
And-
leave, there's
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just want
vacation
some
days,
policy.
it's all
Yeah.
there.
And the other thing that
Gotta get-
I have seen in some handbooks that I think could be helpful would be, and honestly, within ours, the one that you haven't approved, it's a good thing because it references software we don't have.
Yeah.
But how to use Power School, the time clock, things like that. Have specific kind of not the whole manual, but some quick how-tos or those type of things.
And then, is there something else, and I might have missed it as I'm briefing over this, and I'm trying to think of help for central office that talks about, like, for the insurance, for the investments and all that stuff, like an outline for them that's kind of a helpful internal control
I think
thing
that
for
would be
them
good,
as
yeah.
well, so everybody kind of knows what the format is, because I think it's
Yeah.
been a little loosey-goosey, or there's not been a clear internal control before, so I think that would be very helpful moving forward for everybody, so that everybody knows, and it makes it easier for the ladies
Yeah.
in central office. to
Now,
work
I
on
know
that.
it will change the second it's like,
What?
Can I interject?
Yeah.
Termination procedures.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to, I wrote that down and evaluations, like,
Right.
there's nothing in here,
Yeah.
I didn't see about.
Patty, we're used to your position being sitting up here with us, but we've given you a break. If you're getting all the finances done. Then you get to come up with us later instead
you
of deal
said
with all this stuff.
termination procedures, and what was
Yeah.
the other one?
Evaluation.
Oh,
procedures.
evaluation.
Yeah, we had
Process.
evaluation.
Evaluation.
On here.
Because we
Termination.
have
Is it
to,
on here?
we have to
I'm sorry, I
vote. Do
must
we
have
vote
missed.
like every year, like what evaluation that you guys use for, as teachers and things? Is that,
There's a
The
separate committee that handles that.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
But I
Just
do
so
think something else that I've seen that is helpful, I was looking, and again, after we did the printing and stuff today, and we were adding stuff at the last minute, who does what, even though the second you make anything a document, it becomes a history book and somebody leaves or something changes, but we could do it by position. Basically, to your point about insurance, who do I contact about insurance? Who do I contact if I get locked out of my computer? Who do I,
IT,
yeah. But a who, what
yeah. Who,
is
what, when?
important.
Put your name in there, your number.
24/7.
24/7, baby.
Yeah, I mean, for a
Just
handbook, it's
kidding.
just referencing for employees to be able, and administrators, everybody to be able to look at.
But that way anybody new that comes in too
Yeah.
will know, a new teacher or a new staff member in any capacity.
And although it appears to be a bit of a sore subject, I envision this being one of our pages on the website,
No, it should be, as a document.
being the document, and then a link individually to each of these addendums, so you're not scrolling
Yeah.
through.
Well, before you got here, Terry's company they're doing that now. Of course, we got rid of the other vendor, so.
Yeah.
Whoever that was we were paying.
We're gonna keep you busy.
He's looking at me like, what do you mean, what, a website?
Yeah.
But something I have found is there was, even in some of the older ones that we had that were approved, they were a little too in the weeds, and I know, like you say, you're really black and white on stuff, and I think it's important to be black and white,
If you do that in policy though.
but you do that in policy, and, like, a lot of these things will say is at the discretion of the supervisor, or at the discretion of, And I think
Like
that's,
the little line, or anything else that the principal would like you to do.
yeah, other duties as assigned kind of
Yeah.
Like you to
fall
do.
under there, but
But they're all gonna be
Umbrella.
guided by the policies.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I mean, my philosophy with the handbook, like I said earlier, it's got to be something that people actually will look at. And if it's this thick, or if they go through and they find stuff that just doesn't belong,
well, we
yeah.
found what, the first 30 or 40 pages was just for administrators.
Yeah, in
and
the
then it
administrative
went,
handbook, and then it actually it ended up going to this.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it was like, why do we even have this when we could just have this? But then I'm looking through it and I'm like, I went through and I was looking through all the policies, matching it up to what we have. And then there's policies that are listed in here, we don't even have
Yeah.
that number of policy. And I'm like, okay, nope,
Well,
not doing that.
and at some point, it's, again, I believe in providing more information than less, but keeping it clear. But, at some point, common sense and, like they say, ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking it, is, there's things that people should just know as well, that, oh, it's not in your handbook, you can't, discipline me over this, or it's not in the handbook.
because I think one of the things that really stood out to us when we went through that was the amount of documentation that was being suggested in that for bereavement leave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I made the joke of what are we, Ferris Bueller? Bring the corpse up here
I mean,
so
it
I can
was
see
like,
that's
it
what
was like
happened.
way, so I know somewhere between what this is and what that is, there's some common sense
Yeah.
thing in there that applies, but that was like
I know,
a
it's-
death certificate and
Yeah.
just beyond, and we were like, what?
Yeah.
Well, it goes to the same argument she's saying, in 405, personal bereavement leave. It says
Mhm.
personal leave is allocated annually and must be approved in advance. Bereavement leave may be granted following the death, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't say,
Like how many days?
Yeah.
How many
Typically, I
days?
think the
And
well,
that
who
would
do
be-
you have to get it
days.
approved by?
That would be on that sheet per job,
Yes.
because some have more day,
Right.
Now,
So there's some clarification somewhere, but there was just
Yeah.
a lot of stuff.
and
that
I don't
was-
want to deep dive on bereavement, but it's one of those things I have way more experience, not from bereaving, but from writing policy about it actually, that whether you're a 260-day employee or you're a 183-day employee, if your father dies, it's still the
Yeah.
same impact on you.
Yes,
It doesn't matter how many, I get personal
Yeah.
and sick expanding.
right.
The other thing about bereavement days is we think about this, just in case I'm not in front of you when you're going through that policy. I think a best practice for bereavement days also, they don't have to be concurrently. Because as you know, the estate or probate or something might be
Yep.
weeks, days later, so you get a total of 5 or you get a total of whatever, but you could take 3 and then 1 and then 1 as you're dealing with
Yeah.
things like that, especially if it's a parent
Is
or
that stuff
spouse.
that we deal with in policies, bereavement?
Yeah, in policy it could say.
So it sounds like this document, 'cause I keep bringing up stuff and it's in policy. We just need to have a boatload of referencing to policy.
Yeah, just go back and,
Yeah.
and they can deep
Yes.
dive inside it.
Okay.
But yeah, yours would just, in policy, it would just say bereavement days do not have to be taken concurrently.
So
But
then,
in order to make sure that this is correct,
Yeah.
we need to make sure that all of
Right.
those policies are current and up to date.
we have a
That-
policy committee for that?
Yeah, we do. I'm on it. And I thank God for Deborah. She's like, hey, I'll show you how to do it all. And I was like, thank goodness, because
And
I was
I think I
told
told you
no.
what our intent is with policy is Deborah and I are going to start going through and identifying the ones that are simply state law changed. Because if it's state law changed,
There's nothing we can do about it.
there's nothing you can do about it. So we'll probably try to bring forth, there'll be probably a little bit of out of order, but kind of an omnibus group of things that, hey, these are all state law ones. Let's do first reading, second reading, pass it. Then we're going to bring forward the stuff that you would have to discuss or have some discretion in, like bereavement days don't have to be concurrent. You could,
Then why did
I'm
they
so
have,
excited.
4 big old manuals for handbooks when most of it is policy? Why did they have all of that invested time? I don't understand.
Well, I think those that we were
Are
looking
they
at
like
were going
20
to be
years old?
proposed. We
Yeah.
don't.
This is not.
That was part of the contention with previous administrators, was there was not
Could you have
a
it all
consistent
covered in policy?
onboarding system somewhere.
Okay.
It was just we don't know because we
Yeah.
were never told as a board. It was handled through previous central office. So that was one of the goals we had with what they were saying is to get administrative and certified and support staff handbooks that were consistent to make a clear onboarding system for everyone moving forward.
Like, I'll give you an example. So we just approved Sydney Rainford's clinic to be able to use the gymnasium
Right.
for this Saturday.
Right.
There was a document that was kept in central office that had rates to be able to rent out rooms that we would charge. I never saw that. I didn't know that we
Pool,
did
too.
that. Yeah, the pool too. Like, and to me, that's something that, thinking outside the box, okay, we're very small community, 40 minutes away from any type of like fun place for kids. Why not rent out our swimming pool? Put up, like, if we want to put a dollar amount, kids can have birthday parties there.
We started that years ago with Dustin House, and then there was a new lifeguard thing that came into effect, and so we weren't able to do a lot because you had to have someone like certified or something.
A
and
lifeguard there.
It
Yeah.
got to be an issue.
But
Yeah.
you just had to pay a life.
Yeah.
You just had to have funding to pay
Yeah.
a
You did.
lifeguard.
You
Yeah.
did it like Rensselaer, I think,
to
rented
pay-
out pool
to
one
pay
time.
the-
Yeah, yeah. And I do
Pay
know
for the
that. It was just, I
facilities.
never saw that sheet as far as,
Was that in policy or handbook? Approved it.
it was just
Just
there.
So who made that up?
Well, they-
'Cause the board has to vote on it. Who made that?
So it could be buried somewhere, or it
Shredded.
was just, no, I meant like buried in a policy that says, or rates, could go, you
How
could
many
say rates can be
policies do we
determined.
have?
Several.
Oh, there's a bunch.
Is there?
But, now I have seen in some districts, there's not a certified employee handbook because they have a contract.
Yeah.
Per collective
Now,
bargaining.
there are things that aren't, what I would argue though, that's why I like the idea of a unified employee handbook, because, the fact that you should call OSHA if you smell, or you see mold, or no, you know what I mean? What you do if there's mold in your room, that's not gonna be in your contract potentially. But, those kind of things that would fall outside of a contract, and then you cover for those with each of those jobs at the end, and here's what the job is, here's what they do, and I think that's good for transparency's sake too, because, we had people last year leaving the paraprofessional role to go to the cafeterias because they would make a little bit more money, but if you got sick, you lost a whole day's pay because you didn't have sick days, so they thought the grass was a little greener at that point, so.
So you're, obviously, we need to work on this. The policies, to me, seems to be the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So we need to fine tune maybe some disciplinary, whatever, clear stuff for the onboarding determination
Yeah.
process. And then you guys are gonna submit that back so we can review it again and then hopefully get this done in the next meeting or two. What are you looking?
We're gonna wait for policy.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to get through all the policy. I think
Yeah,
it's
and we're gonna do that with all deliberate speed, but what we can do is we can be working on this concurrently because we can look, we can match them up, have them ready, and they can be adjusted as the policies potentially get adjusted.
Because all the job descriptions can be worked on.
Yes, all the job
that can
descriptions,
be
all the acceptable use
Work on-
policies,
yeah.
all those kind of things can be set.
Standardized.
Yeah,
So then can we add this as like a non-action item
yeah,
and just have it continuously, like it's a continuously rolling thing, same thing with our policies that come
Yeah.
through, like we'll have a non-action first reading, one meeting, the next meeting, those
Yeah.
policies will be,
so this will continue to be a living document then. Let's do it that way. Every meeting, this will be on there with anything that we've improved or
Just
no
go through
changes
it.
for the last 2 weeks.
Ah.
And then as we get closer to having all the policies done.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be caught up on it.
okay.
And it gives you guys time too, that you're not making the call tonight because you might have a great thought next week. Oh,
I'm already gonna have a great time, I'm taking notes, this thing's gonna be like, my
Yeah.
kids are gonna be annoyed with me.
okay. Remember, this bad, this good.
I was gonna say, her stuff's gonna come back with this thick. Here's the changes, Mike.
Yeah, this better.
I'm thorough.
Somewhere in
Yeah.
between. Yeah.
No, and I agree with Sam 100%, and I told you,
That's
the employees need it,
Definitely in
the
between.
administration needs it, and the board
Yes.
needs it. Clarity,
And
black
yes,
and
the
white.
Central office
But
needs it moving
It
forward.
sounds like we get a lot of that through our policies. There's some things that we
Some.
don't, but it
Yeah.
sounds like a lot of our other stuff goes through our policies,
Yeah.
which makes sense. That's why I'm saying you double dipped on the policies and the.
And some of them
handbook.
kind of double dip and then don't want to go with the Constitution. Well, so the Constitution is the law of the land, but there's not a law inside the Constitution, if that makes sense. Policies are the law of the land. These become how the law
Think of
actually
it
is.
as Mr. Gonzi says, personal employment guide or personal action guide, personnel action guide to PEG.
Like the military uses.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good.
So that's what we have for you this evening.
I'm excited.
So our next meeting, what do we have in our?
It was our regular
When we
meeting,
have our,
right?
yeah, what is our, we have a special meeting.
Oh, that's right.
You have an executive session.
Well, we have the budget
Wednesday.
in September.
When do we
No,
have an
August.
exec meeting?
Superintendent
On the
search next
6th
week.
for the
Executive
Superintendent search
We need to
next
send
week.
something out.
And then August 13th is the next regular meeting, but we're also having the budget
Workshop.
Is there
workshop.
anything specific?
On that day or before? Or after?
That day. Let me check the calendar. But
That's a long.
Yeah. Well, that budget
That
workshop
was the only day that
will be-
that guy could come. is
Oh.
what he said.
August.
pretty
Today.
stretched.
Yeah.
Next week, Wednesday.
That's the only day.
Remember, because we want to have
I
the
said I could
administrators
come, I just
here.
forgot to put it.
Michael will
Question.
tell you when the meeting is, okay?
He's gonna make a sweat ship. My
time is
budget
it?
books
6?
numbers.
Yeah, that's the day of a regular
Samantha, is
meeting.
that at 6 or 5 for that?
5:30.
5:30.
5:30.
All right.
That's what everybody said. 5:30. So okay, I'll say 5:30.
Got it.
And we'll check on our website to make sure all that stuff's posted for
Maybe we
future.
just bring dinner, sorry, don't miss out, so that nobody has to worry about.
Anything else you guys want to go over on the workshop?
For Wednesday's session, if you guys can go, and I'll try to go through my email, forward it to you. Go back through what we had last time,
I wasn't here.
for superintendent search, as far as like that kind of profile stuff that we had. It like tells a little bit about North Newton.
That might be on the computer.
Yeah.
Central office too.
Okay, I'll have.
Well, I
to
bet
do that.
Debbie had it on.
It's
Profile.
It's like a profile that was at the beginning of our superintendent.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Application.
And you're still getting us some
Yeah,
contracts.
I'm
sample
working through them.
contracts.
Yeah,
Okay.
I figured bad ones you don't want to see.
No,
Thanks.
yeah. so
The
we've
other
got
thing
something.
too is the, on the superintendent's search, we had to pay a fee last time for that, but because they didn't last, we don't have to pay for this, correct?
Correct.
We clarified that with
Yeah,
them.
ISBA had it where if we went through them for a superintendent search, if the superintendent didn't work out, we would not have to like pay any more money to use
So
them
this one's
again, use their
free.
services. And we had like a year, and as soon as I got Steve Morton on the phone, he was like, "Oh boy, I think he's been."
So we don't have to pay.
No, we don't have to pay for that.
Tamp down the smart
But
companies.
now that you mention that, we should probably look to make sure that that was paid. Like, I hate to say it that way, but like, I'll
I'm pretty
ask-
sure it was.
Was it? Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, speaking of, well, I'll just ask this quick. We're in the workshop for stuff I'll ask Patty when we're done. Anything else for this? Mike, you got anything
No.
else?
Mm-mm.
You guys have anything?
Thank you. Nope, look forward to getting